Welcome to Hanging with the Hammer. And we are going to roll the intro. Good morning, and welcome to Hanging with the Hammer. Today I've got a special guest, Keith Scott. He's one of the YouTubers in the community. He's been doing drum covers for a short period of time. I'm all about helping others get more exposure. You can tell I'm not picking guys that are helping me. I haven't invited Cooper Drummer on yet. Not that he'd want to come on my show. I don't think so. But, maybe someday. Who knows? Or Cinna. I don't have those two. They're not on my list of guests anytime.
No.
But I do pick people I think I enjoy their drumming and their videos. So Keith's one of them. Keith, say hi.
Oh, thank you, Earl. It's great to be here. I've been a big fan of the show for a couple of years now, and I appreciate you taking the time to have me on and complimenting me on my drumming. I really appreciate that. Good morning.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to be here. So we'll see how long it takes a few people to get here. I see we got two on. When you get on, say hi, and that way I know who's around. And, of course, this show is all about asking questions. So I guess you referenced, did you watch my Ask Girl Anything show before this?
Yes, I did. I do, yes. Yeah, did I tell you my idea already for another show you could do called Blame Earl?
I've already got a couple people to do that, so I don't.
Yes, yeah, that's
part of.
Yeah, so when you get a new cymbal like your 22-inch Paiste, you need to just make that a separate show called Blame Earl, and that one way when we all get out there and we have to get our 22-inch Paiste rides, and our wives are mad at us, then we can just blame Earl. So have Ask Earl, Blame Earl, Hanging with the Hammer.
Thank you. I'm sure there's a few wives that are going to blaming me for a few things out there,
Yeah.
Thankfully, my wife lets me get away with it, a little bit.
Yes.
I have a good friend of mine who I'm going to have on this show one of these days named Pat from college. And a couple of weeks ago, I've been doing some extra work, some side video work, as well as some drum lessons and stuff. And I was planning on, I have money in the bank to use, but we're also in the middle of we put a deck on our back porch. We need to have it replaced. And so we made it bigger. And it's been a project that, money's money, that whole thing. But usually my studio money, when I make with the studio, I kind of use for me. So I bought that 22-inch ride cymbal. I bought that 18-inch Crash this year. And I've been looking at these for a couple of years. So I had in my mind buying some Sound Edge hi-hats, which I bought just the bottom cymbal for cheap. And my friend Pat called me up about 2 weeks ago on a Friday, and he said, "Hey, I'm selling a Black Beauty, a 6.5 by 14 Black Beauty." And I was like, "Well, how much?" He goes, $500. I said, "Well, and you're selling it on Facebook? I'll buy it from you." So I wanted to buy it. I was going to buy it. So I told my wife that the money I had banked in Venmo was going towards this, because I had $500 sitting in Venmo from all this work I had done. I said, "I'm buying this Black Beauty." Well, by Monday morning, Pat texted me and said, "No, not selling it anymore. Not selling it." So.
Oh no! No!
$500 to put towards the home improvement project. So.
Okay.
Black Beauty
I'm a little.
One of these days.
I'm sorry, broke up.
I'll get a Black Beauty one of these days. Just a matter of time. So. A Black Beauty 1.5 by 14. I already got a 5. High CCM drummer. CCM drummers in the house. I got a few more people in the house. If you're here, say hi, and feel free to ask questions. This is Keith Scott. The intro is Keith's a drummer on YouTube. You do a lot of, rock country covers. Have you done any CCM covers? Because I know that's one of the things that you have a little bit, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit. Why don't you tell us, as an intro to yourself, your background, how you got started playing drums, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I did do a CCM cover yesterday. That was Sixpence None the Richer's song "Breathe."
Right, right. They were CCM, weren't they? Technically.
Yeah. So my background is I started playing the drums. My parents were really, really supportive. I wanted to be a guitar player. So at 5 years old, I was dancing around the house with makeup on my face and a broom because I wanted to be like Kiss. Kiss was my hero. A lot of guys were like that at that time. And so but how my parents had met during the big band era. And they were always going around to these big swing hops and dances and stuff like that. And during that time, a lot of these bands were named after the drummer. And of course, the obvious is the Buddy Rich Orchestra, Gene Krupa. But there were a lot of local guys here in the Midwest that, I wish I knew some of their names. I've tried to get them from my parents, but they met doing these dances. And my parents, they both of them, I lost my parents back to back last year. But they, up until just a couple of years, they were still swinging hard, and my parents pushed me into playing drums. And that a lot of people don't get that, but my parents were like, "Oh, we followed this drummer. That's how we met. You're going to be," and so they put me into drum lessons, probably about third grade, where, I was learning stick control and rudiments, and I thought it was boring. I was a kid, I still had Kiss and all that stuff in my head. And so I slowly figured out a way to kind of like, whittle my way out of the drums, sort of like what I did with Little League baseball. And
playing drums for a while. When did you bring it back in and want to really play drums?
So at 12 years old, and
what was
and I'm sorry, what?
What was your first drum kit?
Okay, my first drum kit was a Dixon, and they've made a comeback recently with Greg Bissonette as their endorser.
Oh yeah, yeah. But
yeah,
and made drums back then. That's interesting.
They did. It was a different company, and they were terrible drums.
Okay.
They were they had the internal mufflers, the knob control, but they always rattled it no matter what tension. They were it was just a stencil kit. It was falling apart on me. So a year later, I got a CB700. Do you remember CB700?
I do. Yeah, that's command music. By the way, hi to Nebel out there. Nebel's out here. Yes, this is live. He's asking the question, is this live? We are live and ask questions, so we have some questions. Keep going.
Okay.
CB700.
Yeah.
Keep going.
How you guys doing this morning? I couldn't see any of the comments on my end.
You gotta hit the button that says comments so you can see the comments.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Come in, and that way.
Oh, yes.
You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with this. I mean, that's a different view. So now we're.
There we go. So we got CCM drummer and Dramasaki.
Yeah, Dramasaki is Nebel. He's from Turkey. He uses UFIP cymbals. So,
oh, nice.
And CCM drummer is in Brazil, but he's from Houston, Texas area, so he's from Texas.
Okay.
Living close to me at some point in time. He's told me that. So,
right.
He does missionary work out in Brazil. So,
awesome.
There are people out there hanging around. So, if you're out there, drop on in and let me know who's here. But so CB700. So when did you get your first real kit? Like, well,
I consider that
been a real kit, but I had a friend who had a CB700 kit, but that was it. And Drumman 190 says hi, so he's here too.
Hey, Drumman! So we got the shirt there.
Wow, promoting Drumman.
Yeah,
I need to get a shirt now. Is where I'm at now in life. I got to get a shirt, and I'm selling a shirt. Even guys that have way less subscribers than me have shirts. So it does seem to be the thing to do is get shirts. So plus a couple more T-shirts to wear than the ones I always wear. Since COVID, I've become even more of a. Well, I was always, my dress was never right on drum covers. I never cared, other than my hat. About it, I wear shorts and a T-shirt all the time. I should dress.
Well, I'd like a shirt that has a hammer on it that says, Earl the Hammer Bennett.
That's the problem. So, I don't really want I don't want a hammer on it. That's one of my problems.
Okay.
So, but Drumman says he loves your T-shirt, Keith. So
yeah.
You're blessed to have that on for him today. But thank you, Drumman, for being on. I got two Matthews on right now, so I see some more people coming in. Remember, this is your questions make the show and keeps it interesting. So, Keith, you went to college. you went to a Christian university. You told me a little bit about it. Were you in a Christian
Yes.
at the time doing CCM?
Yes. And in high school, I was in a Christian band. The first name, originally we were Dead Serious, but it didn't sound as cool saying it out loud as it did in our heads. You know how that goes?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and then we changed the name to Three Nails, which was a couple of years before the secular band Nine Inch Nails got popular. So that was pretty cool. And we were on the new band stage at Cornerstone in Bushnell, Illinois, in '91 of the summer. So
oh,
yeah, that was my junior year in high school, and then I went to it was a liberal arts university called Greenville College in Southern Illinois. But it was when I got there, it was their second year of their CCM major. So, and at the time, this is a long time ago, but they had the second largest recording facilities. And I think that Berkeley and Boston had the number one as far as size and things like that. So
that's cool. Oh, I figured out how to put the first question up of the day. This comes from Drumman 190. I don't know how to take it down, but I figured out how to put it up. So, Keith, he's got a question for you. What got you into making drum covers and posting them on YouTube? Also, what are your favorite things about it?
Oh, that's a great question, Matthew. Well, there's a couple questions in there. What got me into making covers on YouTube was it was COVID. Everybody was shut down. I worked for a school, so I was off work. If you count summer vacation, I was off work for about 6 months. At the time, nobody knew what was going on, how serious the pandemic was going to be. And so everything was shut down. And I had friends that were encouraging me to post covers on Facebook. And they really started taking off on the Facebook world. And but I already had a YouTube channel where I would put like home videos, more for storage space, and the ability to be able to share with distant family members. You could send them an unlisted link or whatever and they could see, my girls and stuff growing up. And so I just kind of started putting the YouTube or the Facebook covers over there more as a way for storage. But then people started commenting, and people like Drum Man and stuff like that, and they were saying these are really good, and they continued, and it made me wanted me to keep doing it. But what the favorite thing about it was for me is I was playing again, and this was a whole different world. I really started enjoying it because the world that I come from in the 90s, where I was playing a lot of bars and stuff like that, it can get really scary. And I'm older now, but so hauling bass drums up and down steps and stuff isn't that fun. And but it made me feel like I was playing again. But then the really cool thing about it is, and that was from watching your show when you were talking about X Tracks. X Tracks was a game changer for me, because my dream in life as a little kid, behind that CB700 drum set, was to be a studio guy. I like playing live. It's fun to play live, but really my heart was in the studio. And so doing the YouTube covers, it made me feel like I was out and playing again, especially during COVID. But the X Track, I actually felt like
work with.
I'm sorry.
It allows you to actually work with the musicians, right? The musicians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why again, the X Tracks thing for me works too. Is that it allows me to play with all the musicians I always wanted to play with, and that's what I do. So you got into it just because you needed something to do during COVID, pretty much. That's
right.
What dragged you into the drum cover world.
Right.
Neville's got a question for you. He said, so I checked out your channel. Is that a 14-inch deep bass drum on your Pearl kit? And why this step, or is it a 16 or an 18?
Okay, that's a big reason why I got this particular drum kit, because I love 14-inch depth drums. I miss that. There is a punch and an oomph that really comes through because I'm getting more of that play off of that front head.
Keep talking, Keith, because I'll be right back. I'm gonna try to make my voice louder. I'm having issues with that. You keep going. Just keep talking.
And the trend for the past I don't know 15 or 20 years is shallower toms, shallower toms, but the bass drums got deeper, and it's really hard right now if you're not buying a used or a vintage kit to find that 14-inch depth. And I really like, this is a 24 by 14. I was really tempted to get the 26 by 14, but I felt like the 24 really kept me in the middle of the 22 and the 26, but maybe someday I'll get a 26. But I really like, I don't use any muffling in my bass drums. And I don't use any like the EMAD type stuff. My bass drums are open, and the way that I able to tune that front head with the batter head gives me that punchy sound without having to put pillows and stuff like that in there to try to tame it. That makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Earl, I see you talking, but I can't hear you.
Useless. All right, so that's not working. I thought maybe I'm doing this from an iPad, by the way, and this is not helping the situation. Apparently, I could definitely hear you louder, but can you guys hear me? Okay, feel free to say something. I hate the fact that you guys can't hear me on this show, so I'm trying to wonder where the microphone is that's getting blocked that you guys can't hear me, because you can hear me, Keith, or you can't.
I can hear you, but I know what they're talking about. I had that trouble when you were doing the show with Tate last week.
Yeah, well, that was from a computer, so that should have been different. But unfortunately, things don't seem to be working any better this week for me. So I've got the shot, but I don't necessarily have the sound. That bothers me, so it's another thing to work on in my in this live streaming world. I was going to go with my computer, but I didn't today. I chose to use the iPad to get the cool drum shot that way. Cool drum. I like the look of being in a drum, studio kind of scenario. So, but with that said, I will talk louder so you guys can hear me, so I don't start talking too softly. I can hear you, but Keith is much louder. I guess, Keith, are you on a microphone or what are you on? You're on a computer?
No, I'm just using the microphone on a laptop.
So your laptop microphone is much louder. I don't know if there's any way to change the volume. I'm using the front camera. Okay. Audio. Is there any kind of an audio increase here? iPad microphone. There's my sound. I don't see it as being. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing. No adjustments. I can't add any gain to it. Sorry about that, guys. So let's see. Neville had another question. Wow, that sound without any dampening. That's interesting. So you have no dampening in your bass drum at all. Are you using EMAD?
No, my front head, I guess technically has a little dampening. It's the PS3, which is it's the 10 millimeter head, but there is that little bit of a ring, like a Ritchie ring, but built in.
Yeah, but that's the head itself, though. It's like kind of like the EMAD's got muffling on it, but
it's just that little
side the drum. There's no
yeah. I don't like any muffling on my drums. I have a couple of older vintage snares that have the internal muffling control, and that's okay. But I take that back. I use clear ambassadors on my toms on both sides, and occasionally I'll use those. Here I got one right here. The Aquarian studio rings, which the reason why I like to use those is because sometimes I do want that 2-ply head sound like an Emperor, but I like the feel and the resonance of the single ply. So it kind of gives me the best of both worlds, that I could have that single ply feel. But if I want that a nice attack of a double ply, I'll just go ahead and put that on there. And that way I'm not switching heads back and forth. And it's easier for me to deal with that, to go from having too much resonance and making it more dead versus if you're starting with a head that's already dead, and trying to get it more.
Am I louder now, by the way? Am I a little louder?
You sound fine to me. I don't know what you sound like to the other guys.
Because I'm now adjusting my microphone with a mic volume. Is that better? That's as loud as it goes, actually. I see I'm showing a little more green, too, so hopefully I made it better. Thank you, Tate, for joining, too. Tate Berkey just showed up. Good morning, Tate.
Hey, good morning, Tate.
These problems. I did learn something. There is an audio setting in there you can mess with. So, but it still seems limiting, but maybe it's better. Thank you, Neville. All right, I'm better now. That's good. I'm glad. If you go with the stock setting, apparently there's problems. There's all kinds of cool things StreamYard does, but then there's these other things you got to learn in a stream, unfortunately. For those of you that watched Tate and I's show on Chicago and on Danny Serafin, I put together a half-hour show where I had painfully adjusted all the volumes to make us sound like we were conversing and not me lower, him higher kind of thing as he would jump in. And it was painful, but I went through a half hour of audio just about Danny Serafin's drum kits. And that's how nerdy I am about Danny Serafin, that yes, I would want to actually talk about just his drum kits. I don't think anybody else has done that, so I think it's kind of a unique video. And maybe one day it'll have 100 views or 1,000 views or whatever, so maybe it'll get in a stream someday.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your playing experience. You said you played in a country band, played with CCM band. Now you're doing drum covers. What kind of music should we expect to start seeing on your channel now that you're doing it? I noticed you seem to like that kind of laid back, swampy feel. I saw a band cover. That's one. What other things you look at?
Well, I pretty much listen to everything, and so I'm gonna kind of just play whatever's inspiring me that day. I know that's not a very rigid plan or anything, but so I would expect classic hard rock covers. Levon Helm is in my top 5 of favorite drummers, so I hope to do some more band covers. And so I'll be doing some CCM. I'm going to be doing a little bit of everything. I just kind of use it to kind of show the variety of drumming that I can do. So someday I could do a crazy fast punk rock cover. The next day I could be doing Christopher Cross. So I'll probably be all over the place. So
I'd like to start. It's good that you're well-rounded and you want to try different things. I mean, that's one of the things in this community that I've found is that, and hi, Lori Jones, welcome to the show. I have found that people try to put you in little boxes, and I'm constantly trying to fight my way out of the box. Doing the Lego movie cover yesterday was outside the box for me, pretty far outside the box for me, if you know what I mean. So, matter of fact, I find doing new music to be very challenging. I found that I thought it was going to be very simple because it seemed very robotic, that song. But in actuality, it was extremely painful that I don't think the way they make songs today.
Yes.
I played on some tracks where I'm playing in the new style of how you play a section and then you play another section and maybe play this section first, and you go back and play the verses that at the beginning of the song. So you're not playing the whole song through. But my mindset is always playing music from top to bottom. I don't think about playing pieces. But all this music that's made today is all made in pieces. And the drummers that play over top of that music, they play whatever they want to play. And they usually play with a lot of flashy chops. And I really don't have any flashy chops.
Right.
So, I mean, I have chops, but I don't have flashy chops. I really have certain things I do that are stylistically in the old school style of drumming that come from a lot of rudiments and those kinds of things. But it's not that linear, choppy, really tight 16, 30-second notes. It's not my head. It's not what I do well. I always have a little bit of a lope and a swing to things. And I think that kind of messes me up with new music, to be honest, unless somebody's looking for that lope. If they want that, then all of a sudden they go, oh, yeah, you're the right drummer for this because you can do that. And a lot of the younger drummers that play click and very metronomically they don't have any swing or feel. That's
Yes.
that swing or feel.
Yeah.
So it's, let's see. We got some questions. CCM drummers asking a question. Let's see if we can do this. I'm trying to figure out. I have no consistency. There we go. All right. So CCM, tell us what your channel name is again. It's your channel name.
My channel name is. It's just my name, Keith Scott. I wasn't clever enough to come up with the name. I just signed up and that's, use my name. So.
All right. Well, he said, never mind anyhow, down a few pegs.
Yeah. Scott's my last name. It's confusing because Scott is a name that can be a first name and a last name. And so, yeah.
No, it makes sense completely. So I see you're a Paiste lover. When did you start liking Paiste cymbals?
I fell in love with Paiste cymbals in 2005. I was always, even back in the day when I had the drum sets that weren't so great, like the CB700s, I always had really good cymbals. You can get away with crappy drums, but it's hard to get away with crappy cymbals. And so I always, I used growing up. I used Zildjian A's. I had the new beats. I even had a couple hollow label Zildjians.
From the late 79.
Yeah. I had bought those used, I think, off a thrifty nickel or whatever it was, pre-internet.
Right.
And in 2005, I had a friend who he was a pastor of a church, and sadly his church was closing. And I was helping him clean. And then he came across a tambourine, but it was a 14-inch Paiste signature fast crash, 14-inch Paiste signature. And he goes, "Hey, you want this?" And I was like, "Oh, well, sure, thanks." Because I had heard Paiste cymbals in the 80s on other people's kits, but they weren't anything special or spectacular. I think they were like, the old 400s, the color sounds.
404s?
Not the 404s. I have a 404 now.
Not even good cymbals. They don't even count.
But yeah, they weren't good cymbals. So I always just thought that Paiste in the 80s and stuff, that Paiste was just, I wasn't impressed with them. But then I forgot I even had this Paiste cymbal. And I usually don't play smaller cymbal sizes. I don't have any splash cymbals or whatever. And I wasn't sure what to do with this 14-inch crash. But I played it. It was just beautiful. I mean, it was just gorgeous. And that pastor friend of mine, he started a quest in me to eventually where I found myself in B8ville, where I didn't have any B20 anymore. And so slowly, my sound became more of that beat.
What's your Paiste setup now?
Right now, I don't know if you guys can see behind me. No, I don't think I can pull that off, but
just rattle it off, and then we'll go
on the stand right now. On my hi-hats, I've got 15-inch Paiste Alpha, the old Swiss-made Alphas, not the later German rock Alphas. Sound Edge hi-hats, man, they are wonderful. But that's the old Alpha Swiss. I think those are from 91. Then above my hi-hats, I have a, let's see here. It is a 18-inch. It's everything like, and this is like doing it in a mirror, where all your movements are opposite. But
what is it? What is it?
It's a signature prototype. Let me see if I can get that on there.
That makes sense. Signature prototype. It looks like it's signature.
Yeah,
nice.
There's the prototype. And then on right now, hanging is a 24 big beat.
Oh, you bought the 24. That's nice.
Yes, I really like my 24 giant beat. I like them both. It's hard to explain.
And then an old one.
Say what?
Is it a new giant beat or is it an old giant beat?
It's a new one.
Okay.
So
I have a 24 new one too, so that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, and I like both of them, but the big beat is what I have on right now, and then the crash is the the Giant Beat 20. Now, all my, I'm sorry.
The multi, right?
Right.
It doesn't have thin, right? Because thin is multi. Thin is different than multi.
Right. This is the multi. This is the first run of the new generation Giant Beats. This came out. This is 2005, I think, or 2006. Mm-hmm. This is when I was basically waiting in line for these to be released. And but the problem with the first run is on these is they bend really, really easy. And I guess they corrected that really quickly. Yeah. And so this thing, I don't know if you've ever had older Paiste cymbals from like the early 80s. The B8 seemed really soft. And they corrected that over the years. And this is very similar to that. So, but it still plays good, and I love it.
Signature line, the signature cymbals bend. Matter of fact, I have a 16-inch traditional that's all bent up and cracked. I have a 16-inch signature China that is all bent up and dented. So the signature line seems to bend for me, but the Giant Beats are a thinner cymbal. Do you know how much your cymbal weighs? I was just wondering if you knew.
Oh, no, I don't. I wish I would have weighed it, but I don't. But I've heard like Terry Keating and other people talk about how that very first run of the Giant Beats, they bent and dented real easy, and unfortunately that's what I got because I got them right when they came out. But they corrected it. And then the last cymbal I have on the kit right now is a 505 20-inch China. I don't know if am I getting that up there? Yeah.
Yeah, I see it. So it's a 20-inch. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I've always looked at the 505 Chinas. I've never bought one, but I've been looking at them for years. A friend of mine gave me an 18-inch 2002 about 4 years ago. And ever since then, I've been playing that cymbal, and I love it. I always loved the bell on the 2002s and the 505s, that squared bell.
Yes.
Having a Rogers catalog in the 70s where they had the Paiste cymbals. And even back then when they were Black Label, they had that same bell. It was a very unique bell on a China cymbal. And it was very much like the Wuhan's. The Wuhan's got a hand bell. You really can't carry those China bells, but ever since I got that 18-inch China, it's like, well, I don't really need another one. And I used to love my 6-inch China for years. So, all right, I got a question from Drumman190. He asked the question, top favorite drummers and why from each of us. So here's how we're going to do it, Keith. Keep your answers to 2 minutes or shorter, okay? All right, we're going to go, we'll start with number 5. You go your number 5 drummer and why. Then I'll go my number 5 drummer and why. Then we'll go to number 4. And we'll go back and forth, okay? So, because I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, and I'm going to try to keep you out of the rabbit holes right now. I don't know if you realize that or not. Okay. All right. So you go first.
All right. Well, the hard part is going to be putting them in order. I don't have them in any order, but I would say starting off, Phil.
Go do however you want to do it.
Okay. Phil Earhart, Kansas.
Why?
Why? Because he plays prog music with great feel, and for me in my ears, I'm impressed with prog players, but it becomes so technical, it just loses all human emotion and feel and swing. And Phil Earhart, he maintained that.
You know, we should probably do this question like this: favorite prog drummers, favorite rock drummers.
Yeah.
Favorite jazz drummers. I mean, because my list is huge, but everybody kind of knows. But
yeah,
is a great choice. You know, I mean, I always love Kansas, and yes, were my early influences, and then I kind of went Genesis. You know, found Genesis through Yes and Kansas, pretty much. It never was a stick, to be honest. I never connected Styx and Kansas together, you know what I mean? Even though they're American bands that are prog, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kansas in high school. Carry On Wayward Son, Point of No Return. That album was. I had 2 for the show. I think it was the one where it was a live album was great album. So, all right, my turn. Let's see. Number 5. Well, let's see. Let's be a little different today. We'll do a different thing. I'll go with whatever genre you pick. I'll pick my guy from the genre because they all know it. I go down my Jeff Danny list. You know what I mean? So let's just go different today. So for prog drummers, Bill Bruford.
Bill Bruford. Wow.
Now Bill Bruford's not just Yes. He's King Crimson. I mean, you got to watch King Crimson if you're going to go prog. I mean, especially the 1981 King Crimson when they did Elephant Talk and all those crazy tunes. I mean, they're crazy. So I mean, Bruford's prog stuff goes King Crimson, Yes, the Bruford record, and then he had his band. So, but Bruford's your turn.
Yeah. Well, this is a hard one too because I'm the odd man out. I'm a big Alan White fan, but that's not in the list. I thought Alan White was a great replacement, and yes, but my next one.
That's an interesting comment, okay? Because I just listened to the other day, somebody posted on YouTube. I came in my feed. It was from a cassette tape from 1974 with Phil Collins talking about. It was an interview with Phil Collins, and they asked him about Yes, and they were talking about how much he liked Bruford, but he didn't like Alan White.
Yeah.
I thought that was incredibly interesting to hear him say, "Well, I don't really think Alan White's the right guy for Yes,"
Yeah.
But that's another rabbit hole.
That's another one. Yeah.
Let's pick another drummer.
Okay.
Questions. Remember, your questions make the show. So if you ask questions, we'll go other ways. Go ahead. Next one.
Well, switching over to jazz, I could name many, but top 5, I got to go with Buddy Rich.
Okay. So when we talk about jazz, you're talking about traditional big band jazz.
Yes. I'm sorry. Big band jazz.
That's fine. I mean, Buddy's the guy, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I'm too young for Gene Krupa, really, even though I've listened to some Gene Krupa. And I think I saw the movie on him when he was on television when I was a kid, believe it or not. But that didn't affect me like Buddy did.
Right.
I would say just because I've met this person, I would say in that big band genre, Louis Bellson. Because Louis Bellson came to my college in the 1980. He was still playing Slingerland. Louis Bellson was the cat in the world. He was the nicest cat in the world. He was just a nice guy, and he cared about people, and he had a deep love of people. So I mean, just from being a natural human being, I think Louis Bellson. That's and forget about it. He's just as much the drummer as Buddy, and he has double bass. Good morning, Michael Perry. Good morning, Sean Woodley. Thank you all for being on the show and identifying yourselves. Thanks for watching today. So we're talking about top 5 drummers, and I'm playing off of Keith's choice stylistically. So I'm not necessarily giving my top 5 drummers. I'm giving whatever I hear in the genre that Keith chooses. So you get another choice, Keith. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and I wanted to really rabbit trail on Ed Shaughnessy on that one, but I love Louis Bellson too.
My thing was I was going to say Ed Shaughnessy. I've met Ed Shaughnessy. I love Ed Shaughnessy. I mean, Ed Shaughnessy with the Tonight Show I grew up on.
Yeah.
And he was one of my first drum clinics was Ed Shaughnessy. He is another nicest man in the whole world guy. I mean, he really is. And he taught me some things for practicing rudiments. The way he practiced rudiments is he would sit at his drum kit and he would play different patterns on the kick in the hi-hat.
Yeah.
So he'd do like samba drum pattern, boom, ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. And then he'd do his paradiddles. And I did that for a while. That's a good way to practice with a metronome. You turn a metronome on and do a samba pattern, do some kind of ostinato figure pattern in your feet while you're practicing with your hands. And that gets you freed up to do things. So it's another practice technique. that I've been exposed to. I don't spend a lot of time doing it today, but it is a fun one to practice. So Shaughnessy should be in there too. We'll give him honorable mention for both of us.
Honorable mention to Shaughnessy. So number 3, I guess I'll go back into the realm of late night talk show drummers. I'm gonna say Max Weinberg.
Max Weinberg of late night. So now I got to fit the late night talk show drummer, not necessarily because of their background, because Max, of course, is the E Street Band, and that's a whole another thing. And I'm from Jersey too, so I'm not going to give my opinion on Bruce Springsteen, okay? Because it's not to expect for somebody from New Jersey, and I am from New Jersey, just so you know. I live
what
on
exit?
The shore, 105. Okay, I lived in the Jersey Shore. Okay, I grew up in Oceanport, New Jersey. I had a house. My first house was in Asbury Park, New Jersey, on 3rd Avenue, a block over from where the Stone Pony was. Okay, I played in those clubs out there in Jersey. So that's my early career, is down in the Jersey Shore and playing music down there. So Bruce was huge. He was huge and you can't, there's 6, degrees to Bruce Springsteen anywhere I touched on musicians I played with. I played with guys that were in the Asbury Juke horn section. One of the bass players, one of the early Asbury Juke bass players, was in a blues band I played with. I mean, I played with Blondie's current bass player once on a blues. I mean, there's a lot of those kind of musicians hung out in the Jersey Shore where I grew up. So when I was there, 20 years I've been in Florida, so everything's changed. But those days were those days. So let me see. Talk show. Now I'm going to give you a talk show drummer. Okay, this was a talk show back in 1986, 7, 88. I don't know when she got off the air, but the Joan Rivers show. If you, you guys want to see something with this drummer, that is one of the coolest things. And this is why I used to stay up late to watch the Joan Rivers show intro. I would stay up till 11:35, 11:40 before I would climb into bed, just to see the intro to the Joan Rivers show, because Vinnie Colaiuta was the drummer. And Vinnie night would play a different intro on the Joan Rivers show. So, I mean, they would play the same song, but there's this one section where the camera would pan to Vinnie, and Vinnie would do some outside fill. And there's a compilation of Vinnie on the late night with Joan Rivers show on YouTube. Check it out, guys. It's worth checking out, where it's just 6 minutes of that section of the song, and they keep showing Vinnie in all these different outfits. Because they would even dress up. The band would dress up in as turkeys and football players, and depending on what time of year it was. And he'd still be going for every night it would be a different fill. And matter of fact, in one of those shots, there's a shot of Vinnie playing Paiste cymbals. That he was a Zildjian endorser back then, and he had a whole set of Paiste cymbals up on that kit. So I guess he was thinking even back then of going to Paiste.
Wow,
it's worth 6 minutes of Vinnie glory if you want to watch Vinnie just ripping. And it was like they get to that one section, and he's hitting all the pushes, and then he does something really outside. Every night he would do something different. So he was my favorite talk show drummer, even though I love Steve Jordan. Loves Ed Shaughnessy, so that's an interesting one. Go to number 2. Let's see which genre are you going to pick now on us?
Rock, hard rock. And everybody always pits this guy with another guy, but I'm going with John Bonham, hard rock.
All right. John Bonham is classic hard rock from the 70s. So I'm going to limit myself to stay away from Lars.
Okay.
Lars isn't one of my favorite drummers. I'll stay in the, we'll keep Dave Grohl out too for now. Let's see. Drummers from hard rock from that era. Boy, that's a tough one for me, because I would have said Bonham. I'm going to try to do something different than Bonham. Ian Pace. But I listen to a lot of Deep Purple. I listen to the hits like Burn and Smoke on the Water. So let me rethink that. You know which guy really influenced me in wanting to be a drummer was when I heard this record, and I was probably the year it came out. I was hanging out with my good. He lived on my street. His name was Matthew Zinowitz. He's not a musician at all. His sister got Iron Butterfly Indagata Davida. and I heard that record, and that was the heaviest thing I ever heard up to that point in time. So Ron Bushy from in that style kind of influenced me to want to be a drummer after hearing Indigada de Vida. You guys all know it. You should all sing it with me. No, Phil Rudd is not in there, Claus. Sorry. I've never listened to Phil Rudd, by the way. AC/DC is one of those things I missed, but I've already listened to Charlie Watts play Simple Time, so I figure Phil Rudd falls into that category. So go ahead, choose another one. That was an interesting topic.
Well, this is the last one. It's going to be a tough one. Oh, because I'm torn between two as far as studio guys. But if I had to pick a number one studio guy, it's Jeff Porcaro.
All right. Well, everybody knows my love for Jeff Porcaro, so that goes without saying here. So I will choose another studio guy. There's a lot of studio guys.
Yeah.
Yes, the studio guy other than Jeff Porcaro that really influenced my playing was Hal Blaine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Hal Blaine played on so much music in the 60s and 70s that, and he's the inspiration for having Concert Toms, that Concert Tom kit. But I decided not to turn it into the Steve Gadd kit. And by the way, Steve Gadd could easily be at the top of my list on this too. But Steve Gadd played so much more than studio to me, because he played all that jazz, that fusion jazz stuff with Chick Corea, and he's played with all the greatest artists in the world like James Taylor and Eric Clapton and Carly Simon. He played with everybody. But Hal Blaine was the studio guy of studio guys that kind of sticks in my brain because I grew up listening and playing. So, yeah. Good choice. Excellent. We went through 5 drummers, 5 different genres too. So I don't know if that's how Drum Man asked that question, but that's very cool. You guys, remember, if you ask questions, we have a show. You don't ask questions, I got to ramble on, which I know you like me to ramble on. I've got that impression from you guys. But see you, Drum Man. Gotta have a great weekend. Take care. Thanks for being on. So, any other questions you got for Keith and I, or we'll go back to some rabbit holes we were on before. So, I noticed on your kit this week you had a Slingerland snare drum. How many snare drums do you have?
Yes. I'll try to get in. Yeah, Slingerland.
So, what is that Slingerland, by the way? What size is it?
This is a 14 by 5.
Eight lugs?
It's an 8 lug. Like I said, this is hard to do. It's like looking in a mirror.
So, and I'll turn off. Did you buy it because Neil Peart had something similar to that?
No, I bought it. It's a story that ties into the story of how you got your nickname, the Hammer. My first professional snare was a Pearl free floating brass Piccolo 3.5. And I was so excited because I had some good snares, but they were student level snares, Slingerland, Ludwig.
Right.
And so this free floater was my first, it had the die cast hoops and everything. I was so excited. I got a great deal on it. And the first place I took it was an audition for a Christian metal band called Ezra in Southern Indiana. And I'm thinking, these guys are metal. I'm going to need something that really cuts through that these metal guys, long hair. I was the only short-haired person there. They all turned around and they were like, what is that snare? That is horrible. You're splitting our heads. And and that kept on happening to me. And then so I got rid of the Pearl free floating snare and I bought a Slingerland. It was a maple. It was 1-ply maple.
One maple. You had a Radio King?
Yeah, I had a Radio King. This is not a Radio King, but the original Radio King suffered major water damage in a basement when a basement flooded. It broke my heart. I did sell it to a guy who was good at trying to restore those things. I don't have that gift. I'm no R. David R. But I wish I was. But So I bought this one because I didn't realize how expensive Radio Kings had become. They were out of my price range, and this particular one, I don't know what the model is, but it's 3 plies of genuine mahogany. I guess there's a ban on a real mahogany sales now or something like that, and this is this is 3 plies of genuine mahogany, and I really really like it. I need to get the bearing edges recut. I don't know who to.
Does it have a date in it?
No. Because the guy I bought it off of, it had a wrap on it originally, and he had reconditioned it and sanded it and stained it. So
it's because sometimes there was dates inside the drum. That's why.
Right. Yeah.
But interesting. So it's a mahogany drum. So it's from the '60s then, probably.
Yeah. We suspect it's from the mid '60s.
Yeah, that's an awesome drum. I mean, so your free floating drum, was that, you said it was a piccolo? You said you had.
Yeah, it was the brass piccolo.
The same one I had. Wow, that's
the same one you had, where you got your nickname.
And that drum it's really nasty loud. It's nasty loud drum. But I eventually got rid of it, and because I couldn't handle it, it just wasn't. I couldn't take it on every gig,
Yeah.
Welcome,
like
Eric
I said,
who's here now, and Sean Woodley said, "What about Bernard and Clyde?" Yeah, Bernard and Clyde Stubblefield. Forget it. I mean, Bernard for studio is definitely a great choice too. Another guy, and Laurie Jones said Ian Paiste was heavily influenced by jazz. By the way, all these guys were heavily influenced by jazz. Anybody that came up in the '60s and '70s has got some big band background in what they're playing. We all swing a little bit because we're all old, and that's the kind of music we heard. It always had this kind of movement in it. The hardest thing for me playing contemporary worship music in churches is the lack of the swing and playing gridded, everything all gridded to the click. It's just doesn't sit with me. That's one of my issues in life. So, but thank you guys for all being on the show. I mean, I got 11 people here right now watching Keith Scott. Those of you that just jumped in, we're talking drums. We just talked about a Slingerland mahogany drum. Do you have any other drums beside your Pearl drums, or that's your main kit?
The Pearl is my main kit. It's the Pearl Session Custom. I just bought these back in February. And I have another kit that you'll see in my videos earlier in the year. It's just a cheap Mapex Mars. But I was really, really impressed with the quality of that kit, because the most important thing to a drum is the bearing edge and how true it is. And
right.
Even at those low-level Mapex drums, they pass that test where you set that down on the marble and you do the flashlight. There was no gaps underneath the drum. The bearing edges were perfect, and I was pulling out a really good sound. I'm going to keep that around. If gigs start picking up and I'm out gigging, I think that's going to be my gigging set, because you know how hard playing in and out of places can be on a drum kit, and I think that's going to be my...
That's totally true.
Yeah.
So an older Mars kit from like the...
No.
Or is
no. Not the ones that you see all over Nashville. I see a lot of those old Mars kits around Nashville. This is my Mars kit's about a year old, and like I said, I'm gonna use it as a beater kit. It sounds really great. The bearing edges and how true the shells are.
What are the sizes on that kit?
Which one?
On your Mars kit, what's the sizes?
Oh, it is the 22 by 18 bass drum, so it does have that bigger depth bass drum, and then it's a 12 by 6 rack, a 14 by 14 floor, and a 16 by 14 floor. So
12 by, you say 12 by 6 or 12 by 8?
12 by 6. It's a fast tom. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fast.
Well, no, I'm sorry. It's 12 by 8. I'm sorry. It is 12 by 8.
12 by 8, 14 by 14, and what was the other size you said?
It's 16 by 14. It's a shallow 16. Yeah.
Interesting. It's strange how sizes have gotten now. I mean,
yeah.
So 70s and 60s and 70s sizes were all the same, it seemed like. 14 by 22, 14 by 20, 14 by 18. Now
they had the square sizes.
20 wide drums. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. And that's why I went with the Pearl, because I actually like traditional sizes. the 14-inch depth bass drum, and then my rack tom is a 13x9, which was pretty standard in the 70s. And then my floor toms on that is a 16x16 and an 18x16.
That's nice.
So,
I wanted an 18. I've never had an 18, believe it or not. I have an 18
well,
inch bass. I got a 16. I got a 14x18 bass drum, but I don't have a 18 floor tom. So,
yeah, I don't know if you can see right next to the Paiste flag I have hanging on that top rack. That's a Gretsch 18-inch bass drum.
oh, is it a Gretsch? What kind
Yeah,
of Gretsch?
it's just a Catalina.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a
It's
club kit? Is that what you had?
Yeah, it's the first year they came out. So it's the single lug. I can put back here.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah. And
Yeah, it was
is that a white marine pearl?
it was a silver sparkle, but but I pulled the wrap off and I stained it.
Gotcha. Well, I guess if you got a drum that's $500 for the kit, you pull it apart if you want.
Yeah, that's what I did.
I mean, I got my pearl concert toms. They were white. Okay. The problem was the finish on the pearl concert toms was falling apart. So it was cracked and there was pieces missing. And I looked at it, I said, this stuff comes off like, and I pulled on it and all of a sudden it started just coming off. I was like, this comes off easily. So I took the lugs off one of the drums and then pulled it off and realized it was just held on by a glue tape strip, held the whole wrap on.
Yes.
To myself, this is ridiculous. Let me take this off. So I took one drum off, then the next drum, and pretty soon I had fiberglass drums. And then I said, hey, this is like Hal Blaine's kit, so let me keep it this way.
Yeah.
And I made my drum kit that way. And I got two nice white concert toms, a 10 and an 8. And I said, ripping the wrap off. I took the wrap right off. Bam.
Yeah.
And if I could find a 6 or a 12, I would buy one so I'd have the full kit because I'm missing the 6 and the 12. Instead, I bought this crazy Octobahn back there. And,
nice.
You know, the reason I bought the Octobahn was I got it for $85. And I was looking at 6-inch drums, and the only one that came up was an Octobahn. And it was an odd size, long 11x6 Octobahn that was an orphan. It had no mat, wasn't married to anything. The guy basically, I'm selling it for $85. I bought it. So I always looked at Octobahns, but spending $400 on 6-inch drums going do 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 do, like the one little sound they make, I thought, so I'm not Simon Phillips in my playing, so that ain't gonna happen, So, guys, if you have questions, and hi Gunter, Drumico's on in the house too today. Thank you for being here. Questions make the show. We're talking drums with Keith Scott. We've been talking about Pearl drums and Mapex drums, and now Catalina maple drums. So let me think of a nice question to ask you that would. So, what's your hope for your channel on YouTube? What are you hoping to do with it?
That is a great question. And one of the things that I've enjoyed about your show is watching other guys try to figure out the direction they're wanting to take things. Matthew, a drum man, he just left, but I really like how he's taken his angle. I like how you're taking your angle. And to be honest, I'm not really sure. I think for me at this point in my life, I just want to get out and get playing again. Like I said, a few years ago, I got busy with being a dad. Then COVID hit. And I'm just wanting to see where the channel takes me. I'm hoping it's just a way to get me back out there and getting the cobwebs off and just being a part of the drum community again. But eventually I would like to go from just doing covers all the time to having a unique angle, which is really hard to do. So you've got the Ask Girl thing going, and then you've got Hanging with the Hammer, and you're doing your covers. It would be really cool if I could get a very specific niche like that within the drum community and not just be a part of, another guy doing covers. So,
yeah, I think it's hard to find a niche now in this world. because I think it's already been cracked wide open. Number one, by the Cooper drummers and Sinners of the world,
Yes.
and unfortunately, they got in at the right time to have what they have. And a lot of these shows now are so production driven because they really there's ways to make money at this that some guys have figured out. I mean, Rick Beato is one of my favorite channels to watch. I
Yes.
don't watch
Mine too.
everything he does, but Rick Beato's got it down. He's got 2 million subscribers. Last year at this time, I think he had 1 million. He hit 1 million. He dumped a whole other million in a year. It is exponentially what happens when the more content you get and the more you're out there, you start to grow. I don't look at my metrics to look at metrics' sake, but I was looking at something today. I have like 800,000 plus views on my videos. I've got 800 videos probably too out there. So if I'm getting 100 views per video, I guess that probably makes a lot of sense, you know. Some of the video, I think there's a lot of videos that just sit there that were the early ones that no one goes back and finds. And then there's those that have been around a long time and they've got traction. You know what I mean? And it's an interesting world. But the reason I do YouTube has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do with keeping my chops up, keeping playing, being with this community of drummers and getting to know guys and trying to encourage drummers. That's why you're on the show, because, you know, we can talk. I would love to have some of my European friends come on the show sometime. If you're interested, let me know. But I think there may be a language problem, so that's probably why that's not happening, you know. But I'm all about the community aspect of life with people in the real world and in the online world. So that's what I'm trying to do with this. But Ask Girl Anything came out of a week where I had like 3 covers went out, and somebody asked me questions about the same different questions, and I realized why sit there and write 2 paragraphs on how I do something. Let me just tell you.
Right.
So that's what Ask Girl Anything came out of, and most of you guys all know my views on different things, but it's good when we kind of get into something different, like that little thing we got into with the different drummers, different genres, because people don't realize I listen to other genres. They think I'm a 70s guy. For a while there, I was the jazz guy on YouTube. They thought I was, that cracked me up because I am not a jazz player, but I do like to goof around with big band charts once in a while and try, and I can swing, but, there are guys that are real jazz players. One of the real jazz players out there that I would love to bring on this show someday, and maybe one day I'll be bold enough to ask him, is George Flutis. And everybody knows George Flutis as Bonhamology and as Zeppelin guy, but in actuality, his career is he's a jazz drummer.
Right.
He's an amazing jazz drummer, actually, and he's got the vocabulary, and he's played in the big leagues. He's the real deal. I mean, when I talk about a jazz drummer, so it's like guys don't realize that the new world is so small that the greatest drummers in the world are here talking to us here on YouTube. And like talking to John Robinson was that way for me last year, where I said, let me have a lesson. And then I did something for him. I helped him do some X-Track stem work for him. And he said, I got another lesson, which ended up to be my interview with him, which is out there on YouTube now. And it was me getting to ask him dumb questions about his career that nobody usually asks him, because they're the dumb questions I've always wanted to ask that I never find in interviews. So I don't interview like you're supposed to interview, like when did you start playing drums, and also about your childhood, and, can you explain 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover one more time? Steve Evans, who's got 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Like, I really want to know what he did on Asia, and he can't remember it anyhow, because I probably was all coked up that day anyhow. But that was part of Steve's career, was his drug problem he had early on in the 70s and 80s, and then he cleaned up, and he's been clean for a long time now, but that saved his life. He was pretty messed up, and I was going to college in New Jersey at the time, and I knew guys that knew Steve during that period, and he was not in good shape at that point. He would probably, so there's probably a lot of reasons why he doesn't remember some of those things, because he was doing so much work, and they were going 100 miles an hour all the time, and everybody was all coked up. It was a very different world. And we live in a very different world today. Even though drugs are still there, you just think of them as being out on those gutter streets in your neighborhood, somewhere, those streets you don't ever want to go down. But back in the day, the music industry in Hollywood and all that was all messed up.
Yeah.
Fame messes people, you know? So.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
Yeah. Good morning, Chadwick Perry, who's now Double Deuce Drums. Chadwick made drums. That's an interesting, I'll have to bring Chadwick on to talk about how you make drums. But he is fearless as R. David, by the way, is Chadwick.
So Chadwick's now Double Deuce Drums?
Double Deuce Drums, that's Chadwick. So.
That's going to throw me off because I just know him as Chadwick Perry.
Yeah. Well, changing up things, changing up this world.
Yeah.
Any questions, guys, today? Any other questions for Keith or I? So we talked about Paiste cymbals. We talked about your drum kit. We talked about drumming influences. You mentioned Levon Helm. What's your thing about the band and Levon Helm that you love? Because you really said he was your number one drummer, by the way. You started with that today. I remembered.
Yeah, he really is, because I had to, going back, the context of the question was I was doing early CCM stuff in the late 80s, 90s. It was hard. It was hard rock. I got pulled into the country music scene, which that was a fun challenge for me because I didn't listen to country music. But because of that country music, people were getting me into more styles. I would call them like Americana or roots rock.
Right.
And so in the early 90s, I was getting introduced to the band. And the terrifying part about that is people were calling on me to sing. And so I'm not really comfortable with my singing voice, but because I was a singing drummer, you got to do the band. I mean, when you think of a singing drummer, other than Phil Collins, you think, I do in my mind, I think Levon Helm or Karen Carpenter.
Levon Helm was one of the greats, and he played mandolin. Do you play mandolin?
No, I wish I did. Maybe I should. Maybe that could be my angle for the YouTube channel. Yeah. I'm sorry, what?
I slipped that one in without actually having to put that one up on the screen for Chadwick. He has played mandolin. I don't know if I try to follow the comments. So here's the question.
Okay.
Finish. Go ahead. Finish your statement.
Yeah, I'll finish. So when I was singing the band songs and doing the drum parts, I realized how the way he sings and how he does his drums and drum fills is really intertwined with how he's singing the songs. And so when you're actually singing a band song and playing the drums with it, and I was just like, man, this guy is just amazing. He's not doing flash. He's not.
That's an interesting comment you made, because I've watched him talk about that, Levon talk about that. And that had a lot to do with his style of playing, was that he would play parts that he could sing along with. And one of the things I think a lot of drummers miss in playing with singers, because I do a lot of work with singers. I've always done work with singers, backing a singer, and what singers like about me is I don't step on them. Because I'm singing along with them and I'm phrasing with them a lot of times. And I think that's one of the things Levon understood, was how to phrase the song, because he's singing the song. So he played different. He's not playing the part. He's playing the part that fits with the vocal. That's why he's thinking it that way.
Yes.
And I think that's what we do miss, that if not being a singing drummer. And by the way, I am not a singing drummer because my voice is so terrible. And I got so scared out of it in college, that how bad my voice was, that I thought I could never sing. So, but I do like to sing along for myself, but I would never put myself out there, just because of my experience in college was so bad with singing. So,
yes.
But I'm very sensitive. I always follow the vocal. I try to punctuate the vocal and be aware of the vocal and be aware of how my fills fit between the vocal. I think that you can lose a lot, and I think Levon had that thing to him. You know what I mean? So that's the point of Levon, and he was a great drummer, and we miss him dearly. Chadwick has a question for you. He says, "How did you choose the Rancid song?"
That's an easy one, Chadwick. I was playing a lot of soft music in a row there. We're talking Christopher Cross, Lionel Richie. I even did Linda Ronstadt, and I figured for the sake of trying to get subscribers, I need to pick it back up and get into a more rocking song. I had played in a band in the 90s where we did some Rancid songs, and it was hard to find a Rancid song without a lot of F-bombs and other cuss words being dropped. So I picked Avenues and Alleyways. So thank you. Yeah, it was a cleaner song without rough language. And it was a way for me to kind of get back into the rocking thing and a little bit away from the soft AM 70s things I've been doing.
Hey, don't say anything bad about the 70s music I play.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's why I'm a big fan of your channel.
I'm only messing with you. Anyhow, that's people ask me why I don't do or do heavier music, because I have a lot of guys that ask me, are you going to play? Can you play some Metallica for me? Can you play Van Halen? And of course, the answer is I can, but I don't think you get my authentic who I am me playing that, because I have to work a lot harder. And by the way, that was the changer for me on YouTube, was when I stopped having to find only those heavy rock charts, drumless tracks on YouTube, because I used to get all my drumless tracks from YouTube. There was a couple guys that produced stuff from Rock Band, and I would steal those tracks. But they were sometimes the hardest tracks to work with if you didn't know the song, because there was no click track on it. So you're basically kind of floating with them. And some of my early heavier rock covers, I'm kind of floating around because you don't know where the time is, but the time is moving. But if you're locked with that drummer, you would know where it is. X-Tracks allows me to play with those drummers now, because I can put that drum track in there and play over it and play to it and then get rid of it. It doesn't have to be there anymore. And I can get pretty darn close to the part a lot of times because I'm doing that. But so I would probably feel a lot more comfortable playing Metallica now. Like I did Enter Sandman without any, I didn't even understand the song because I never listened to Metallica, to be honest. Just wasn't my, I'm sorry. I don't want to offend any of the Lars fans out there, but just not my
You can't
thing.
have a drum show without mentioning Lars at some point. That's funny.
Well, I don't normally mention Lars, but Lars is not my thing. My favorite Metallica song came from the soundtrack to Mission Impossible, and there was that was really the coolest song, and I was going to try to cover that one, one that was the song that they released with that, and it got blocked immediately. It was going to be blocked immediately, so I said, forget about it. It's not worth it. I couldn't find anybody doing it, and I know that somebody would have done it if you could have got it through. Which is the other problem in YouTube land, is getting blocked, of course. So
I think your cover of Cult of Personality by Living Colour was just awesome. That's a heavy song. It's a hard song to do, especially that ending. When you get down to the ending on Cult of Personality, that's just crazy. But your drum sound was just so massive on that song. It was like Earl can rock it.
Well, thank you. And that was for my carpenter friend who's been out there working on my deck. He asked me to play that song, and he's out there today doing some finishing up work finally on that project. We're almost done with it, and he asked me to do that song. And the hardest thing about that song was those crazy 3/4 bars.
Yes,
I couldn't figure out how it landed. And then there was this new girl that came on teaching lessons, and she did Cult of Personality immediately, and I subscribed to her pretty early. I forget her name, and there was a chart. I realized there was a chart of Cult of Personality. It's one of the only rock tunes that I've done where I actually had the chart up, and I was kind of looking over to the chart to follow it. It helped me. It was a thing that helped me count it, so I didn't have to spend 5 hours learning a song, because I have no. It's not fun for me to learn songs for 5 hours. It's just not fun. Even the big band stuff I do. The reason I have fun doing the big band stuff is I throw the chart up there and I play it and I play it and I play it until I get it to where I feel like, well, I'm not going to get any better at this, and it feels right, that I'll release it. That's how I do all my covers. I play it till I feel it's okay. And if it's longer than an hour, it's like something's wrong. Usually I can't spend more than an hour, and that's from practice to I'm recording everything I do now. I just did a cover of Green Onions, Booker T and the MGs. I did it
Okay.
yesterday. Yeah, and it's on my Instagram for those of you that follow me on Instagram. And I did a piece of it. And I actually do. There's two versions I'm going to release with the YouTube. I did the very straight, Al Jackson Jr. playing Green Onions, which is really nothing, by the way. It's ding. It's like quarter notes on the cymbal. He doesn't really swing it, but he's swinging it implied. And the bass drum's 1 and 3, and the snare drum is kind of 2 and 4, and he occasionally dedumps it once in a while. So I did that, and then I did one where I kind of played it a little bit more shuffly, the way I would have been goofing around with it, just to show I can play. I can play all kinds of crap over that tune because it's just a great shuffly groove, But
Right.
That took me 16 minutes to do that. 16 total. That means I played it 4 times. It's a 3-minute song. I mean, I could have used the first take if I wanted to. I said, let's do it again. I did it 4 times just so I could goof around on it a little bit. So there's certain songs that just come boom like that. That's the way I like to do things. But
another. I'm
for
sorry.
an hour and a half, forget it. It's like, no.
Yeah.
And Cult of Personality was that song until I found that chart. And then when I found that chart, it was like, I played it in like 45 minutes. And it's not perfect, but you know what? Nothing about me is perfect. That's what the one thing
sounded great,
man.
It sounded great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that you enjoyed it. So, let's see. We got a question here. Eric F. Drum says, "Are there any Lars fans?" I believe there are Lars fans. By the way, I think Lars is a great drummer. He gets ragged on too much, but
I thought the drumming on Master of Puppets was great. I thought Master of Puppets, that whole album was just great drumming from beginning to end.
Yeah, Master of Puppets. You're not allowed to have a ride cymbal when you play a Lars cover. Don't put a ride cymbal in, and don't ever the video that a heavy metal cymbal. I didn't know any other heavy metal drummer to choose, so I chose Lars. That was the wrong thing to do in my perfect cymbal video or whatever.
Yeah.
Said something about Lars, and I get comments like every 6 months from somebody going, "Lars doesn't play with a ride cymbal. Lars doesn't play with a ride cymbal." It's like that's the first they want to like rip my head off about Lars playing a ride cymbal. It's like, okay, you take a little less coffee and step back a second here, because I actually have seen in ads in Modern Drummer he had a ride cymbal at one point. Now maybe he doesn't like to use it, maybe he doesn't use it anymore, but he started with a ride cymbal like all of us. We all had one heavy stinking ride cymbal for metal music. My first rock ride was a Rock 21. Everybody had to have a pingy ride cymbal for a while there. I hated that cymbal. All right, so Chadwick is saying, Keith, are you using a 24-inch, and what depth?
Yes. It's the 24 by 14.
24 by 14, that's the answer.
Or is it 14 by 24? I always get confused on that.
Well, if you go by the drum magazine sizes, everything's backwards. And they tried the Modern Drummer was always 8 by 12, just like the catalogs. The old catalogs back in the day that I grew up on, everything was 8 by 12, 9 by 13, 14 by 14, 14 by 6. Now, not allowed to be that way. It's got to be something else. You don't put the shell size first and then the head size. It's supposed to be back.
Yeah,
but it all started with Drum Magazine back in the day. They decided to be different than Modern Drummer. And by the way, I have a ton of drum magazines that I bought. I was getting it for years, but they were the first one I dropped. I just said, no, I'm not feeling it. So Tim Bragg said, let's see what Tim Bragg says. The official way to do it is we put the head size first and then depth afterward. That's only in the UK and in Drum Magazine world. Okay, just so you know, Tim, I do not do that. It's 8 by 12 for me forever. That's what was in the Ludwig catalog. Ludwig, Slingerland, Gretsch, you looked at those catalogs in the 60s and 70s, it was always shell size, head size. And it changed. It changed. And then when Power Toms came in, didn't make any sense. I know. Well, the UK has always been a little different on Premier was always different than everything else. Okay, I'll give but I'm going to have to go back to a Premier catalog to challenge Tim on this one. I have an old Premier catalog from the 60s. I'm going to see if it was flipped around. Premier had some really cool tom sizes, though. I will say that. Premier.
Weren't they all square?
Well,
Like
no,
12 by 12, 13?
they weren't all squared. Actually, they had an 8 by 12, and then they had a 10 by 12. That was kind of no 8 by 12 and an 8 by 14. That was it. So maybe they called it 12 by 8 and 14 by 8, but they had like an 8.
Okay.
So I know there was like a Keith Moon kit with all the toms looked like they weren't squared, but they were the same shallow depth across. So my yoga thing told me I've got 10 minutes to yoga class. So we're gonna have to wrap this up in 5 minutes, Keith. Just gonna let you know. That was my warning. But yeah, Tim, I know everybody's got a different way of doing everything, and I'm not fighting it too much. Other than I'm just gonna stick with the Ludwig catalog. That's where I'm at. So everybody can laugh about that. I'm here converting everything you're saying. You're converting everything I'm saying? What do you mean? Are you gonna give that to MI6 or whatever it is? And what's gonna happen to me?
I think you meant the drum sizes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. I'm glad you're not writing it down and sending it off to the British intelligence, because I know they're in cahoots with the CIA, and I could have like somebody up and taking me away because all right.
Yeah, and then they'll make us do our drum sizes and metrics, and that would be confusing.
Yeah. Funny today. You really are. Thank you all for being on the show and sticking around with us and letting us yuck it up a little bit. Keith, do you have anything else you want to say to everybody about your channel, about anything as we're wrapping things up?
Well, I'm a big fan of the show, and I really appreciate you having me on here. It's really quite an honor. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Earl.
Well, I thank you for being on and taking the time to be on with me. Guests and questions make my show now. That's the best thing about hanging with the Hammer, is that I get to bring friends on and people that I enjoy, and I admire your drumming. I've admired your drumming from square one. Once I started seeing your video, once you got them at 16 by 9 ratio, I was happy. Okay. Yeah. Your early videos drove me crazy. I mean, that iPhone thing.
And now they're switching back to that with the shorts. And I'm like, I was doing the short thing.
You'll see less of me. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But, having it this way made my day, and, because I could see more of you playing. That's what I like to say. And that's really what I look for in drum covers, is that seeing how the guys play and seeing more of what they're doing. So I appreciate one camera videos, because I do have a lot of one camera shot videos. I appreciate that, but I'm just happy I could spread your name out to everybody and let everybody get to meet you and know you a little bit. And that's right, I forgot Tim's from France. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what the French CIA is. I know they've got one too out there.
Oh, yeah.
So, Tim, say hi to Manu Cachet for me. If you get to see him in town someday, that would be awesome. If you know him. But Tim's a great drummer. You should check him out. He does a lot of swing, big band. He's got a couple albums out on Spotify. If you put it up there real quick, I may plug your Spotify album, Tim. I know I've been listening to a little bit of it. So, but anyhow, Keith, thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the compliments.
Everybody have a great Saturday. Keith, stick around at the end as I get off, because we'll have a couple seconds at the end to clean things up. Everybody have a great Saturday, and we will talk again next week. I'm not sure if it may be pushed again, because I told my grandkids I'd take them out to breakfast next week. We'll see how that works. My grandkids live down the street. Anyhow, bye, everybody. Thanks for being on the show. See ya.
Thanks.
Bye.